Yuen Chen and Elias Dager have joined me in the studio to talk about music. So welcome to you both.
Thank you for having us.
I've listened to you both perform. Fantastic. Great musicians and still young musicians, so a lot more to come. Folks will hear a performance or part of a performance in just a bit, but I do want to kind of get to the beginnings for the both of you. And Yuen, we can talk a little bit about your background, and
Sure.
You're a cellist.
Yes. I was a violinist when I was very little,
Oh, okay.
from like 3 to 8, and I switched to cello. So music has been a friend of mine for my whole life. Yeah.
And you weren't born in the U.S.
I wasn't. China is my home. I was born in eastern part of China and grew up there until I was 16. I came here to further pursue music with my best friends. Yeah.
So you came here and you obviously continued your music studies. Talk about, and you changed from violin to cello, or did you change in China?
In China.
Okay.
When I was 8, I switched. I was complaining about standing for too long.
Oh, that's an interesting reason.
Silly reason.
Why? Right? Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll probably get to it in a bit, but you stuck with the string instrument.
Yes.
And you were able to sit and perform as opposed to stand. Elias, you were born in the States.
I was.
Tell me about your background. You were born not too far from Quincy.
No, I was born in Boston, and my family moved in different layers from Lebanon. So I'm actually 100% Lebanese. So my dad came when he was 23. My mom's dad came when he was 23. And my mom's parents came. I don't know if they were 23 or how old they were. But my mom's family ended up in Quincy. My dad ended up in Quincy, and they met at a Lebanese festival.
And was piano your first instrument?
My mom took me to, which still exists, this Mom and Me. It was all rhythm and singing and kids walking around in circles and dancing and stuff. So that was my first musical, I think, experience. But piano was, my first instrument.
And influences. So at a young age, maybe in China, and maybe some influences now, what made you decide to first play violin and then play cello?
I say it was mostly my parents' decision. They probably thought music or art is a great thing. Actually, none of my family members are professional musicians.
You're the first in your family.
I'm the first one. Yeah, and people there love classical music. They love Western classical music. So there's a big population of children of starting at a young age.
And I'd like to turn to something that you said about music. Music's power to connect people and bring healing. Talk about that.
I feel music has such power to bring people instantly to various worlds, different cultures and different emotions. Emotions are probably like what I love music the most about music is it expresses emotions that we all share as humans. And I feel just giving listeners this experience is especially important at our time where it's filled with struggles, difficulties.
So it's almost a universal language, right?
Absolutely,
music is a universal language. And equally, you say that music's power to tell stories and build community.
Yeah, I feel that's in line with what Yuen said, basically. Yeah, tell stories, tell emotional stories, but also for a long time I've been playing with singers. So there's lyrics, there's poetry, and those are more literal stories, but music without words, I think, also tells stories. And you get a rare chance to hear somebody's perspective very directly, whether it's a composer or an improviser, or somebody and even if the music isn't literally about something, it's about them in some way and about somewhere else. So it's like this rare access to some internal world that usually would be closed off to. So that's, I guess, what I mean by tell story.
Yeah. So I want to say with classical music, with chamber music, and you can both answer this, there's not a lot of room for, well, or maybe there's no room for improvisation, right? It's all pretty much written down pretty straight.
Yes.
But with that said, you can play with emotion. So maybe address that.
We think about this all the time. We compare classical music to like jazz
Right.
music, for example, which has a lot of room for improvisation. But I think we both have agreed that even though classical music so much written on the paper looks like fixed, but in the very instant, like there's so many different aspects that changes how you play music, like how we feel in the moment,
Right, how
right?
the room
How the energy in the room,
is. Yeah.
the energies from the audience that can totally change. So we can like have a fixed interpretation in our mind, but especially in chamber music, when you do collaborations, it so much depend on how my partners are feeling, and that changes how we play. So each time it's kind of a surprise.
Yeah,
Actually.
I totally agree. And I'll give the example of that concert with David. We have a friend who's a violinist, and I played with him this was just over a year ago in New York. And we had practiced this one movement of a Bach sonata for violin and piano and keyboard. It was never written for piano. It was written for harpsichord and violin. So already you're trying to maybe sound like a harpsichord, maybe sound like a piano. There's many choices. We practiced and we came to some good idea of basically how we would play it. And then for some reason in the concert, we played it completely differently than we had ever tried it. And that happens more frequently than you think, because the acoustics of the room, the feeling of that day, like, so it's good to actually practice in such a way that you can feel flexible in the moment.
Yeah, think it as you're improvising.
And
No
as an
way.
audience
That-
member,
yeah.
right, as an audience member, I like to hear what you both shared. An audience member does want that musician to put their own identity on a piece.
Right. Yeah, I actually also just heard from another friend that his friend has now been going to, like Boston Symphony does, 3 or so concerts of the same program. So she goes at least twice to see, like, oh, is that pianist going to play the same way these 2 days?
And probably finds that pianist does play differently.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about the upcoming performance here at the Thomas Crane Public Library in Quincy. That is going to be on Sunday, February 23rd from 3 to 4 p.m. What can folks expect?
A juicy, delicious program.
Well said. Okay.
Would you agree?
It's very juicy, I would say. It's very thick. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have 2 big works. First half is called Four Cities by Turkish composer Fazıl Say. And second half is Caesar Frank's Violin Sonata, the most beloved piece by him, one of the arranged for cello and piano.
Yeah, and in the middle we have a tiny, tiny little piece that's like a sorbet cleanser between 2 big courses. It's
By
or like
We're
a
going with
ginger.
that whole kind of tasty theme.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I didn't even think of that. But yeah, like the
food.
a ginger, pickled ginger or something. It's a Webern, 3 pieces, 3 short.
Little pieces.
Each one is maybe 30 seconds.
Yeah, the entire piece doesn't go more than 3 minutes. Fleeting, but
And
very
that's-
powerful,
yeah.
very effective.
Very like concentrated. That's a 12-tone piece, so it's not in the typical tonality we would usually hear, and all the gestures are very, very concentrated.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that is in great contrast from the other 2 works, just in terms of
right.
language. The other 2 are so like lush.
Effusive,
Yeah.
expansive.
Yeah.
And on that note, I want to thank you both for coming in and chatting with me. folks will get to hear the two of you perform now. We'll go to that in just a second. But again, thank you so much. It was enjoyable,
Can't
certainly, to
wait.
listen to you prior to the interview and now to chat.
Thank you for having us
Yeah,
here.
thank you so much.
Thank you.